want to know who has taken it?
You want to tell me, and I have no objection to hearing it.
Why, my dear, you must know. Mrs. Longfield of Netherfield is taken by a young man of large fortune from north of England.
What is his name?
Bingley.
Is he married or single?
Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. A single man of large fortune. 4,000 or 5,000 a year. What a fine thing for our girls.
How so? How can it affect them?
My dear Mr. Bennet, how can you be so tiresome? You must know that I am thinking of him marrying one of our girls.
Is that his design in settling here? My dear, this was a good book.
Come, Darcy, I must have you dance. I hate to see you standing about you by yourself in this stupid manner. You had much better dance.
I certainly shall not. You know how I detest it, unless I am particularly acquainted with my partner. At such an assembly as this, it would be insupportable. Sisters are engaged, and there is not another woman in the room for whom it would not be a punishment for me to stand up.
I would not be so fastidious as if you were for a kingdom. Upon my honor, I have never met with so many pleasant girls in my life as I have this evening, and there are several of them to see uncommonly pretty.
You are dancing with the only handsome girl in the room.
Oh, she is the most beautiful creature I've ever beheld, but there is one of her sisters sitting beside her. Do let me ask her partner to introduce you.
Which do you mean? This thing? She is handsome, but not tolerable enough to tempt me. I am in no honor at present to give consequence to bring young ladies who are slighted by other men. You had better return to your partner and enjoy her smiles, for you're wasting your time with me.
For Miss Bingley.
Oh, okay.
Can I have the carriage?
No, my dear. You had better go on horseback, because it seems likely to rain. I think you might stay all night.
Looks as though you had quite a pleasant morning. Please come in. Your sister is very feverish. Not enough to get up out of bed. I'll take you to her.
Jane.
Believe me, my dear Elizabeth, that your modesty, so far from doing you any disservice, rather adds to your other perfections. You would have been less amiable in my eyes had there not been this little unwillingness. But allow me to assure you that I have your respected mother's permission for this address. You hardly doubt the purport of my discourse. However, your natural delicacy may lead you to dissemble. My attentions have been too marked to be mistaken. Almost as soon as I entered the house, I singled you out as the companion of my future life. But before I am run away by my feelings on this subject, perhaps it would be advisable for me to state my reasons for marrying, and moreover for coming into Hertfordshire with the design of selecting a wife, as I certainly did.
An unhappy alternative is before you, Elizabeth. From this day you must be a stranger to one of your parents. Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Missy Collins, and I will never see you again
Whoa,
if you do.
you can stop there. You are too hasty, sir. I am very sensible in the honor of your proposals, but it is impossible for me to do otherwise than to decline them.
Okay, pardon me. Charlotte Lucas, will you marry me?
Yes.
Your drink, sir? Your drink, ma'am?
Thank you.
Do you know the gentleman, Mr. Darcy?
You could not have met with a person more capable of giving you certain information on that head than myself, for I have been connected with his family in a particular manner from my infancy. How much are you acquainted with Mr. Darcy?
Enough to an extent whereas I found him very disagreeable.
I cannot agree more. Everyone is disgusted with his pride. He did not gain his fortune rightfully. He bequeathed me the next presentation of the best living in this gift.
He took your inheritance. What a dishonorable man. He should be ashamed.
He is prideful and not to be trusted.
How can this be? Mr. Darcy is friends with the well-mannered Bingley.
Bingley cannot know of his true character. Miss Bennet, we must turn our attention to our host. Regards must be made before leaving the closure of this dinner.
I did not know before you walked this way. I imagine your cousin brought you down with him chiefly for the sake of having somebody at his disposal. I wonder he does not marry to secure a lasting convenience of that kind, but perhaps his sister does as well for the present, as she is under his sole care. He may do what he likes with her.
No, that is an advantage which he must divide with me. I am joined with him in the guardianship of Miss Darcy.
Are you indeed? And pray, what sort of guardians do you make? Does your charge give you much trouble? Young ladies of her age are sometimes a little difficult to manage. And if she has the true Darcy spirit, she may have her own way. You need not be frightened. I never heard any harm of her. And I dare say she is one of the most tractable creatures in the world. She's a very great favorite with some ladies of my acquaintance, Mrs. Hurst and Mrs. Bingley. I think I have heard you say that you know them.
I know them a little. Their brother is a pleasant, gentleman-like man. He's a great friend of Darcy's.
Oh, yes, Mr. Darcy is uncommonly kind to Mr. Bingley, and it takes a prestigious deal of care of him.
Care of him. Yes, I really believe Darcy does take care of him in those points where he most wants care. From something that he told me in our journey hither, I have reason to think Bingley very much indebted to him, but I ought to beg his pardon, for I have no right to suppose that Bingley was the person meant.
What is it you mean?
It is a circumstance which Darcy, of course, would not wish to be generally known, because if it were to get round of the lady's family, it would be in the misunderstanding. It would be an unpleasant thing.
You may depend on my not mentioning it.
What he told me was merely this, that he congratulated himself on having lately saved a friend from the inconveniences of a most imprudent marriage.
Did Mr. Darcy give you any reason for this interference?
I understood that there were some very strong objections against the lady.
And what arts did he use to separate them?
He did not talk to me of his own arts. He only told me what I have now, I told you.
I am thinking of what you have been telling me. Your cousin's conduct does not suit my feelings. Why was he to be the judge?
Action.
The drink, sir?
Do you know the gentleman, Mr. Darcy?
You could not have met with the president. Just
That's sad. Okay, alrighty. I imagine your cousin brought you down with him chiefly for the sake of having somebody at his disposal. I wonder he does not marry to secure a lasting convenience of that kind, but perhaps his sister does as well for the present, as she has the true Darcy spirit. She may have her own way. Oh, darn it! No, cut it.
Cut it.
Now let's meet the cast in order of appearance. First we have George Rios as Mr. Bennet, and Marissa Lulay as Mrs. Bennet. Jonathan Alvarez as Mr. Darcy. Wow, such form! Isaac Cuevas as Mr. Bingley, the soccer star. Sarah Perez as that thing you saw as Elizabeth. We have Nathan de Guzman as the splendid Mr. Collins. Wow, look at that bite. And we have Juan as Lieutenant Wickham, and Tony Lee as Colonel Fitzwilliam.
Cut it.